The engagement party was held at the St. Regis rooftop, and every detail had been curated to scream one thing: perfection. White orchids cascaded from crystal towers. A string quartet played Debussy. The Manhattan skyline glittered behind floor-to-ceiling windows like a backdrop painted by money. I had spent 4 months planning this night, and as I stood near the champagne tower in my grandmother's vintage Dior gown, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. My fiancé, Daniel Cross, was working the room with the ease of a man born for power. He was 34, handsome in that sharp-jawed, old-money way, a corporate litigator at the firm we had built together, Cross and Voss LLP. I was the Voss, the name behind the name. The one who had passed the bar at 23, won her first Supreme Court case at 28, and founded the firm at 30 with nothing but a 2-room office and a conviction that justice was a commodity the wealthy had monopolized for too long. Daniel had come on as a junior associate 3 years ago. He was charming, relentless, brilliant in court. I fell in love with him the way you fall into a warm bath, slowly, then all at once. He proposed on the steps of the courthouse after our biggest win, and I said yes, and for one crystalline moment, I believed I had finally found a partner who saw me as an equal. I was wrong. Daniel climbed onto the small stage near the quartet and tapped his champagne glass. The music faded. 200 faces turned toward him. Partners, clients, judges, journalists. My mother was in the front row, beaming, and my father was beside her, finally looking at me with something other than disappointment. "Good evening, everyone," Daniel said, his smile wide and practiced. "Thank you for being here to celebrate what should be the happiest night of our lives. I have an announcement." He reached out a hand. A woman stepped onto the stage. Sophia, my best friend since law school, my maid of honor. She was wearing a silver slip dress I had helped her pick out, and her hand slid into Daniel's with the ease of long practice. Her other hand rested on her stomach, a stomach that, I realized with dawning horror, was no longer flat. "Sophia and I have been in love for 2 years, Daniel said, his voice carrying through the silent room. "And we're having a baby, a son." The string quartet stopped mid-note. The champagne glasses froze. My mother's smile shattered like glass. "I know this is unexpected," Daniel continued, turning to look directly at me, "but Vivian and I have been growing apart for years. She's brilliant, everyone knows that, but brilliance doesn't make a home. Sophia understands me. She supports me. She's willing to put our family first, which is something Vivian has never been able to do. So tonight, I'm ending our engagement, and I'm asking Sophia to marry me instead." He pulled a ring box from his pocket. He opened it. The diamond was twice the size of the one he'd given me. Sophia gasped theatrically, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." They kissed, and the room remained frozen. 200 people trapped in the amber of a moment none of them had asked to witness. Then my mother stood up. "What did you just say?" Her voice shook. "You've been cheating on my daughter? With her best friend? And you're announcing this at her engagement party?" "Mrs. Voss, please." Daniel held up a hand. "This isn't about Vivian. This is about Sophia and me. Vivian will be fine. She's a survivor. But she needs to accept that the firm, Cross and Voss, is no longer hers. I've already filed the paperwork to restructure the partnership. Sophia will be replacing Vivian as co-managing partner. Vivian will retain a small stake, of course, but the leadership will belong to us. It's time for a change. The board agrees." The board I had appointed. The board that was stacked with Daniel's golf buddies and Sophia's law school connections, people I had trusted because Daniel had asked me to trust them, because I had believed that love meant sharing power. Sophia stepped forward, her hand still on her belly, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "Viv, I know this hurts, but you have to understand. Daniel and I are building something real. You've been so focused on your career, on your cases, on your legacy. You never had time for Daniel. You never had time for me till we found comfort in each other. And now we're going to build the firm into something even bigger, without you holding us back." Holding them back, I had mentored Sophia since she was a first-year associate. I had given her her first courtroom win. I had paid for her wedding to her now ex-husband. And she had repaid me by sleeping with my fiancé and stealing my company. "You'll need to sign these," Daniel said, gesturing to a stack of documents on a side table. "They're the restructuring agreements. Your signature transfers day-to-day control to me and Sophia." You can keep your office, your title, your clients, but the firm belongs to the new leadership team, effective immediately. I hadn't spoken. I hadn't moved. I was standing beside the champagne tower, my grandmother's Dior gown suddenly feeling like a costume I had been wearing for a role I'd been miscast in. My grandmother, the woman who had raised me after my parents' divorce, the woman who had told me when I was 12 years old that women in our family did not cry in public, they strategized. I wasn't crying. I was strategizing. You're very confident, I said, and my voice came out calm, conversational. You're standing on a stage at my engagement party, announcing your affair with my best friend, and you're asking me to sign over my company. You must believe you've covered every angle. Daniel's smile flickered. I have. The board vote, I said. You've got Howard, Patricia, and Marcus. That's 3 of 7. You've got the restructuring documents drafted by your personal attorney. You've got Sophia's pregnancy as a sympathy play for the media. And you've got the engagement party crowd as witnesses to my acceptance, because if I make a scene, you'll spin it as me being hysterical and unstable. It's a good plan. Sophia's eyes narrowed. Vivian, don't make this harder than it has to be. Just sign the papers. I'm not going to sign the papers. I reached into my clutch and pulled out my phone, and I'm going to explain to everyone here exactly why. I pressed a button, and the screen behind the string quartet, the one that had been displaying a slideshow of Daniel and me in happier times, flickered to black. Then a logo appeared. A logo that made Daniel's face go white. Blackwood International, the largest law firm conglomerate in the world, 600 offices across 47 countries. The firm that Cross and Voss had been desperately trying to partner with for 3 years. What is that? Sophia whispered. Vivian, what are you doing? You spent 2 years planning to steal my company, I said. I spent those 2 years building a safety net you never knew existed. Cross and Voss was never just a boutique litigation firm. It was the New York flagship of Blackwood International. That I founded it as a subsidiary. Did I own it? Did I own all of it? The intellectual property, the client contracts, the partnership agreements. The board members you think you control, they report to me. The restructuring documents you drafted, they're void without my signature, which you will never get. And the small stake you were going to let me keep, that was always 100% Daniel. Every single share. The doors at the back of the rooftop opened. A woman in a perfectly cut navy suit walked in, flanked by 4 attorneys. She was 60 years old, silver-haired, with the unshakable authority of someone who had argued before the International Criminal Court and won. Margaret Chen, the global CEO of Blackwood International. Madam Founding Partner, she said, her voice cutting through the silence. I have the documents you requested, the termination of Mr. Cross's employment, the revocation of Ms. Reed's license to practice within any Blackwood subsidiary, and the formal dissolution of their attempted board restructuring. Also, the Attorney Grievance Committee has been notified of the fraudulent documents Mr. Cross attempted to file. Daniel staggered backward. No, this is Blackwood International. Vivian is the founding partner of Blackwood International. That's not possible. That firm has been around for 20 years. Vivian is 33. Blackwood was founded by my grandmother, I said. Eleanor Blackwood Voss. She built it from a single office in London to the largest legal empire on the planet. When she retired, she passed control to me. Not because I was her granddaughter, but because I was the best litigator she'd ever seen. I kept the connection hidden because I wanted to prove I could succeed without her shadow, but the shadow was always there, and tonight, it's falling on you. Sophia's composure shattered. You're the owner, you're the billionaire, but you work 80-hour weeks. You wear clothes from sample sales. You told me you were drowning in student debt. I let you believe that, and I let everyone believe that, because I wanted to see who would value me for who I was, not what I had. You failed that test, Sophia. Daniel failed it. The board members who voted against me failed it, and now everyone in this room knows exactly what you are, thieves who tried to steal an empire and got caught by the woman who built it. Daniel grabbed the edge of the stage, his knuckles white. The clients, our clients. If you fire me, the clients will leave. They'll follow me. They're loyal to me. Are they? I turned to the audience. Mr. Hammond, your family's estate has been represented by the Voss family for 4 generations. Are you loyal to Daniel Cross? An elderly man in the second row stood up, his face hard. I'm loyal to the Voss name. I didn't know this person was trying to steal it. Consider my business firmly with you, Vivian. Mrs. Alvarez, your class action suit against the pharmaceutical company who argued it before the Federal Circuit. A woman in the third row rose. You did, Ms. Voss. You won us $300 million. I don't know this man. One by one, the clients stood point one by one. They declared their loyalty, not to Daniel, not to Sophia, but to me, the woman who had actually built the firm. The woman they had trusted with their lives, their fortunes, their futures. Daniel's face crumpled. This is a nightmare. This is a nightmare. Vivian, we can fix this. We can undo everything. I'll leave Sophia. I'll do whatever you want. You'll do exactly what I want, I said. You'll walk out of this building, you'll surrender your bar license voluntarily, or I'll have it stripped. You'll never practice law again. Not in New York, not in any state, not in any country where Blackwood has an office. And Sophia, you'll do the same. You'll also forfeit any claim to your unborn child's inheritance, because Daniel's assets are about to be frozen pending a full forensic audit of the fraudulent board vote. Sophia lunged toward me, but the attorneys intercepted her. You can't do this. I'm pregnant. I'm carrying a child. You're carrying the child of a man who betrayed his fiancé and committed corporate fraud. That's not a shield. That's a consequence. I turned to Margaret Chin. Please escort them out. And contact the press. I want the full story on the front page of every legal journal by morning. Daniel was dragged toward the elevator, still shouting my name. Sophia stumbled behind him, her silver dress catching on a chair, her belly leading the way, her face a mask of tears and fury and dawning, catastrophic realization. When the doors closed behind them, the rooftop erupted, applause, cheers, the flash of cameras, and my mother rushed to embrace me, sobbing. My father stood frozen, his expression shifting from shock to shame to something that looked almost like pride. Margaret Chin touched my elbow. Your grandmother is on the phone. She said to tell you about time. I laughed. My grandmother, the woman who had taught me to win arguments before I could tie my shoes. The woman who had told me, on the day I founded Cross and Voss, that I should never reveal the Blackwood connection until I had no other choice. It's not a crutch, she'd said. It's a nuclear option. Use it only when they've left you no other way out. They had left me no other way out, so I had gone nuclear. 6 months later, I sat in my new office at Blackwood Tower, the global headquarters in London, looking out at a city I now commanded more of than anyone else alive. The dissolution of Cross and Voss had been swift and surgical. The clients had transferred seamlessly to Blackwood's New York division. The board members who had voted against me were dismissed and faced their own disbarment proceedings. Daniel Cross was under federal investigation for fraud, and his assets were frozen. His child had been born, a daughter, not a son, and Sophia was raising her alone in a one-bedroom apartment in Queens, her legal career over, her reputation destroyed. I had won, but winning wasn't the same as healing. Healing took longer. Healing meant sitting with the fact that the two people I had trusted most in the world had tried to erase me. Healing meant accepting that my judgment had been catastrophically wrong, and that my love had been weaponized against me. But healing also meant looking at the skyline of a city I now called home and realizing that I was not defined by what had been done to me, that I was defined by what I had built. And I had built something unshakable. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Asterisk, Ms. Voss. My name is Adrian Sterling. I'm the CEO of Sterling Global. We met briefly at the International Arbitration Summit in Geneva. I know this is out of the blue, but I've been following your career with immense admiration. I'd like to discuss a potential partnership, and if you're open to it, S asterisk. Adrian Sterling, again. The man was becoming a motif in my life. I had met him once, years ago, at a conference where we had argued opposite sides of a mock arbitration. He had been brilliant and infuriating and utterly unforgettable. I typed back, asterisk, Mr. Sterling, I remember you. You called my argument technically correct but spiritually bankrupt. I'm still deciding whether to be offended. Dinner is acceptable, but I'm choosing the restaurant. Vivi, asterisk. His response came seconds later. Asterisk, I was wrong about the spiritually bankrupt part. I've thought about that debate for 3 years. Let me make it up to you. As asterisk. I smiled and put down my phone. Outside the window, London glittered in the afternoon sun. I had everything I needed. My grandmother's legacy, my own firm, a future that stretched before me like an open road. Somewhere across the Atlantic, my ex-fiancé was sitting in a lawyer's office, trying to defend himself against charges that would end his career forever. Somewhere in Queens, my former best friend was rocking a baby to sleep in an apartment she could barely afford, wondering how her fairy tale had become a nightmare. And I was here, alive, free, victorious. Not because I was lucky, not because I was cruel, but because I had finally learned that the strongest shield is the truth you've been keeping in your back pocket, and the sharpest weapon is the identity you built while they weren't looking. I had been underestimated for 33